Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and I'm here to give you my review on Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 2. As we already know, Netflix are doing this really annoying thing with this series where they're breaking it into 3 parts. Clearly, just to try and drag out the subscribers. I know that Cobra Kai is one of their most profitable shows. Stranger Things did the same as well. Stranger Things Season 4, they split that series in half. They're probably going to do exactly the same thing when Season 5 rolls around for that. But yeah, 3 parts for this thing. 3 parts of 5 episodes. So this is part 2. Part 3 isn't released until apparently February the 13th. So we've got a good few months to wait for that one. And to be honest, I don't even know if there's a whole lot to talk about this particular part. It's very frustrating how they're splitting it. It clearly wasn't ever meant to be split. I guess where they choose to round off each part does kind of ramp up to like a little mini climax, which keeps you waiting. But it's very frustrating storytelling because I don't think Cobra Kai is really the series where you need to split something like this. I think it would have been much better had they have just released the whole thing. But as I say, you know, why release the whole thing when you can just keep those subscribers coming back, right? And keep people paying for like an extra 3 months to see how it all ends. Bath Time in the comments says, "Oh my god, Chris, I'm home on a Saturday night because my tummy hurts and I've got a headache." I'm really sorry to hear about that, but fortunately, thank you for joining me tonight to hear me prattle on about Cobra Kai. Hopefully, we get a few people in too who are also Cobra Kai fans. I know we did for part 1, but if not, I'm just going to be talking at a camera to myself, which is fine. But at least Bath Time, I know you're here, so that's all cool. I guess before I get into my review for part 2 itself, people probably already know that I'm a huge Karate Kid fan, the original trilogy. There's certain moments in those films that have just had such a core impact on me as a person, really, which sounds a little bit overblown, but I love films like that, similar to Rocky, you know, certain life lessons and teachings and quotes and things like that, and the music too. That original trilogy for me, the Karate Kid films, are incredible, and I love them, especially the first one. The first one's my favorite. I think a lot of people would probably say that, but I do love 2 and 3 as well. Terry Silver in 3 is amazing, and we might be talking about him later on in the review. That time says, "Never seen it, to be honest. Is it good or one of those series where it started well and goes downhill a bit?" Well, this kind of brings me on to my review. So sort of recapping on what I said on part 1 of this final series. Well, I encourage people to go watch my other video first, obviously, but I'm going to kind of truncate what I said in that video in this one here. The first 5 seasons are incredible as far as I'm concerned. There's peaks and wanes, certainly, but for the most part, the first 5 seasons to me have been outstanding and actually a good example of bringing a franchise back that's, you know, 20, 30, however many years old it is, and actually coming back with something to say and doing, you know, a respect to the original characters and the legacy of those characters and the original story, whilst also integrating new characters and new conflicts and everything. But the focus was still very much on the original cast and their relationships and where we find them 30 years on. It's actually probably one of the best examples I can think of, you know, comparing it to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, for example, how it kind of shits over all of the original characters and just completely tears them down. You know, Hansa goes back to smuggling. He's no longer a general. He's a miserable asshole, deadbeat dad. Leia is just, well, I guess she's just a general. So that's fine. I guess she's just there. And then Luke, as well, we all know what they did to Luke in The Last Jedi. This show didn't do that. It was excellent and a really good send up to sort of classic 80s action and machismo kind of films, but actually having a lot of heart to it itself. Season 6 was a noticeable drop in quality for me. I don't know if that's because season 5 ended on such a high, but even season 5 dipped a little bit, but it did have a lot going for it still. Season 6, I am starting to feel the fatigue of it a little bit now, and I'm actually glad that this is the final season. I think if they kept dragging it out, then unfortunately I would fall out of love with this thing. And I'm still into it. I still love these characters, you know, and I watch it to the end, but I'm really feeling the fatigue with this one. And there's a certain part in this where I feel like it just jumps the shark. And I mean, there's been lots of hokey moments, even in the original Karate Kid films and in Cobra Kai. It's no exception to that. But this next batch of 5 episodes is just, yeah, I'm still not feeling season 6. I feel like it's lost the heart. I feel like it's lost the charm. And to be honest, I feel like it's kind of lost the plot a little bit. There's very, very thin plot that's dragged out so far over 10 episodes. We've got another 5 to go as well. There isn't really a whole lot to say in these 5 episodes in terms of narrative, meat to the story. The first 5 parts are kind of a blur to me. I remember just it's kind of mired in the melodrama of the new characters, like relationships. It doesn't feel like we're moving the needle all that much. I talked about moving the needle on Daniel and Johnny's relationship in that, one series ends where they kind of become friends, and then the next series they immediately disregard that and we drop back to the status quo of them being enemies. By the end of that series, they agree to work together. The next series, they fall apart over something so trivial. And they keep doing it. They've kept doing it in season 6. And I'm like, come on, guys, we're in the final season now. We can have them be friends. We could have built to something. And it's the same with relationships. It's like, oh, Sam and Tori are becoming friends. Oh, no, they're actually not. Now they're enemies again. Oh, Tori's jealous over this person. Oh, no, they're not. And oh, now they are. And it's just, we keep hitting the reset button on every single one of these relationships. I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about Robbie and Tori together. I don't care about Sam and Miguel, and oh no, now he thinks she's cheating with someone else or she's being flirty with someone else, and all of that melodrama shit I don't care about at all. I care about the original characters. And that's not to say I don't like some of the new characters. I do. I really like Miguel, for example. Robbie has his moments. Tori, they all have their moments, apart from Sam. I've never liked Sam. But a lot of the other characters do. Kenny is great when he's written well. So yeah, this series has just kind of meandered for me. The first 5 parts were just... And then another thing that I really didn't appreciate in the first half, and they're kind of still doing it a little bit in this second part as well, is that they're tearing down the legacy of Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi, for the past 5 seasons, has always been held in, complete reverence. There was a really, really nice scene back in season 3 where Kumiko reads the letter that Miyagi wrote to Daniel before he passed away, which occasionally I still go back on YouTube and I watch that scene. And I thought it was just beautifully handled, and it almost felt like a real moment for the actors as well, because with the time they spent with him on set and everything, and probably outside of set too. Whereas this series, it feels like it is going with that more of a modern trope of we need to just completely dismantle and tarnish this person who we thought was, completely wholesome and a wonderful human being. It's like, oh, actually, no, he has shades of grey and is actually kind of an asshole in some respects. And I really don't like that. I'm like, do it to any character you want. You've done it to Luke Skywalker. Fuck you. You've done it to all these other characters. You've torn all of these wonderful icons down. James Bond's gone. Indiana Jones is a washed up shell of his former self. But don't do it to fucking Mr. Miyagi. Do you leave him untouched? And they got him too, kind of. And they do that in this series as well. There was the revelation in part 1 of this series that Mr. Miyagi once fought in the Sekai Taikai, which is, like the most prolific karate tournament in the world. And it can get violent. And it does get violent in this one as well. But they say that Mr. Miyagi actually killed his opponent on the mat in the ring. I want to say in the ring. That's boxing. Is it still the ring, isn't it? I don't know. If anyone knows more about karate than me, let me know. But yeah, in this one, they kind of say, he was brutal and he killed a man. And we know that he had his demons in the first Karate Kid film. You have that bit where it's one of my favorite scenes, actually, where he gets drunk. And he's talking about his family and how his wife died in childbirth and whatnot. And that really adds to that paternal quality that Mr. Miyagi has with Daniel in that first film and throughout the trilogy. And we see that he has his demons, and he gets drunk and he gets a little bit belligerent and stuff like that. But that was kind of enough. That was all we needed. I don't want, Mr. Miyagi killed someone, and actually no, he was an asshole, and he got involved. What was that? There was like a whole organization in the other one where didn't he like go partners on like a gym or something, like a back alley gym, and they did loads of despicable things like robbery and whatnot. I can't remember. There was something in part one. It just felt so crowbarred in there, and I just really didn't like it. And they kind of do it in this series as well, where we learn that he died. I'm gonna try and avoid spoilers as much as possible. I don't know. I mean, I will be getting into spoilers later on in the review. I don't know whether to just spoil something now, but it is related to Mr. Miyagi and Pat Morita. I'm going to try and dance around it, but I'll probably go into it now. So if you haven't seen part 2, I guess just click off. My opinion hasn't really changed much. Are these 5 episodes better than the first 5 episodes? Maybe, in that something actually happens. We see some familiar faces return in this one again. But it really is just kind of fight for 5 episodes. And there's not really a huge amount that I can say narratively. It is just people. It's the tournament, which we see pretty much every single round. And then there's a big, stupid, over-the-top fight. You thought the school fight was stupid in season 2. This is ridiculous. It's almost like, well, it's the final series. We need to have this big free-for-all fight that goes on for about 20 minutes because it's our final season. Fuck it. Let's go big or go home. It feels like that. And I'm almost positive that wasn't needed. I'm going to get to you guys' comments in just a second. I can see people in the comments. We've got Dirty Sanchez. We've got Chuchi, Brinsley, everyone. I will get to your comments in a second, guys. I'm not ignoring them. They do the Peter Cushing thing with from Rogue One, where they bring someone back with CGI. The whole Tarkin thing from Rogue One. They do that with Pat Morita. There's a moment where after Daniel realizes, okay, I'm going to avoid the character who comes back. Daniel finds information out from the 50s that when Mr. Miyagi fought in the Sekai Taikai, he killed his opponent. And he has like the scorecards and what happened from back in the 50s. And then he has this vision and it goes into widescreen and it's almost like an old school karate movie where Daniel is fighting a young Mr. Miyagi. And it's just another actor, of course it is, playing young Mr. Miyagi. And then when Daniel's knocked to the floor in this like weird dream vision that he's having, the young Mr. Miyagi's face forms into Pat Morita, old Mr. Miyagi from what we know from the original movies, and they have him talk, and he's like, this is why you failed, Daniel-san, or something. And it's Pat Morita, and I don't know how I feel about that. It's this weird new thing of like AI and deep fake and voice AI. I'm like, the guy's been dead for a while, and I felt like for the previous 5 series, they've actually done a really good job of still keeping Mr. Miyagi involved somehow in the show, whether it be through letters or old teachings or the characters continuing what they knew from him or showing clips from the original films. Now we actually have CGI deep-faked Mr. Miyagi. And I just felt like it was in poor taste a little bit. I don't know if they had like the blessing from his estate, his family or whatever to use his likeness. It just felt a little bit pointless for like a weird little dream sequence where he's fighting Daniel. I don't like it. I could have done without that. I'd have been fine if it was just, a flashback to young Mr. Miyagi. That's fine. That's fine. You can do that. But don't actually have him morph into the one that we know. I thought that was in poor taste, to be honest. It's a grey area. But yeah, that happened in this new block of 5 episodes. Let me just get to some of you guys' comments. Dirty Sanchez says, Silver Ex Machina was a bit too much for me after the 55th time within 3 seasons. Yeah, so Silver Ex Machina, what he means by that is that we do have a returning face in this series in the form of Terry Silver, my favorite character out of all of Cobra Kai. He is the best thing in Karate Kid Part 3. Absolutely love the character. I love what they've done with the character. Was it season 4 where he returned? And we see what he's been getting up to, and he sort of becomes the Terry Silver we once knew. I think the actor's fantastic. His physique as well. I think he is a martial artist too, and he's kept it up. Dude's in terrific shape, and he has this really intimidating edge to him. He's really evolved the character, and I like that. So it was great to see him back, but yeah, it is just like, oh, it's who was behind it all after all this time? Oh, it was Terry Silver. What a big shock. They also... The continuity of this series is really weird as well, in that, you know, previous plot points that have happened, they just kind of hand wave away. For example, Terry Silver being back, full stop. The guy was arrested, I think, at the end of... It was the end of the previous season, wasn't it? I think at the end of season 5, the dude gets locked up. And that was it. And we knew he was coming back. I did see some leaks out there that Terry Silver was going to come back in episode 8, which he did. So I was kind of already prepared for it. So it wasn't so much of a shock. And then I was like, well, hang on. He got arrested. You know, he beat up Stingray, and Stingray testified in court, and Terry Silver was arrested. And then in this, it's just like one sentence. It just says, oh, yeah, it was thrown out in court because they thought that Stingray's evidence wasn't conclusive enough or something. I was like, oh, okay. So then he was just released, and, you know, Terry Silver's out there again. It's the same thing with Kreese. So Kreese was arrested, and he was in prison. He was in jail. And he created, this was in the previous season, he created a riot. And in the commotion, he managed to don the coat of like a doctor, I think it was, who worked at the prison, like a white lab coat. And he just walks out of the prison. That's kind of far-fetched in and of itself. But then in season 6, and I think I forgot to mention this in my previous review when I reviewed part 1, I was thinking, well, Kreese is now one of the mentors of Cobra Kai, who are competing in the world-famous Sekai Taikai. Why are the authorities not here? Why is no one saying, hang on, Kreese, you were arrested, you were in prison, you've escaped, you're a felon, you can't be here. And you're being broadcast on TV, and your name's publicly signed up to the Sekai Taikai as, you know, mentoring Cobra Kai. How the fuck are you here? And I did think that in part 1. I think I just forgot to mention it in my review. And again, they hand wave it in this. He says, oh, you know, they've dropped all the charges. You know, is anyone, you know, everyone's going to feel sorry for a previous veteran who's suffering from PTSD. I'm like, the charges weren't dropped. You were in prison. And you escaped. If anything, that's just going to add on, you know, your notoriety and your jail time. What the fuck? So I still don't get it. Nothing makes sense. It's completely fucking jumped the shark. I'm just kind of passively watching it now, and I just want this thing to end. It was a blast while it lasted, but I'm sorry, season 6 is not great so far. There are moments in this season. There are moments in this block of 5 episodes. Very, very few and far between. I think my biggest negative so far with this series is just meandering story. It feels like it doesn't know what to do with any of its characters. A lot of them are completely sidelined. And it feels like it has to kind of retcon certain things into the plot in order just to get that character even in the series. I'm going to talk about Carmen in a second, because there's a whole subplot that we deviate from the main story, which ultimately leads to nothing. And we move on from it, and we kind of reset the status quo. So it feels completely pointless and tacked on, really, in just a way to get her in the show, I think, in order to know what to do with the character. And that happens with a lot of the characters in this one. Beyond that, it really is just non-stop fighting. And don't get me wrong, like, fighting is part of Karate Kid. You know, it always leads to a tournament. It always leads to some kind of big fisticuffs at the end. But it doesn't need to be this dragged out. In Karate Kid 1, you have an effective montage to "You're the best around," where we skip past all the rounds because it's pointless, it's filler, and what matters is the actual fight where the two main characters are involved and the struggles that they've all gone through, and they take it out on each other in the round, in the ring at the very end. It's kind of like Star Wars, really. The best fight scenes, the best lightsaber fights are the ones where the characters actually have some kind of like emotional stake. There's something to the fight. It's not all just for, fanciful show. It's pretty to look at. It can be kind of cool, but it's just, well, what are we saying here narratively? The fight should almost be like a totem for the actual characters and to further the characters' relationships in that moment. That's how I always think a good fight scene should be. And in this one, you're just watching people punch and kick for so much of the episodes. It's pretty much what all the 5 episodes are. It's really negligible to say anything else beyond that, really. So I think this is going to be a particularly short review. Bath Time says, is it the case where they've got to set stuff up and that's why the quality... where they've got to set stuff up and that's why the quality is down because of the mechanics of the story? I think it's just that there isn't much of a story to tell. It feels just very meandering, like they don't have a clear goal vision. Maybe that's down to the fact that they've boosted the amount of episodes for this season. Usually it's a kind of tight 10-episode series. In this one, you've got 15 episodes. And also, I think releasing it in 3 parts rather than a complete whole, I'm almost reviewing these as like mini seasons, and you're just looking at like a little part. It'd be like reviewing like 3 episodes of a show. I've done that in the past with Andor, but sometimes it's good to just review the whole thing. Certain TV series benefit, I think, from that episodic storytelling where you can sit down, you can dissect, and you can talk about each individual episode. I feel like Lost is a good example of that, for example. If you were going to do reviews on that, I think that would be a good one where you could review each episode. Whereas storytelling like this, where you've got 20-minute, 30-minute episodes, it's more of a complete narrative, and you just want to watch the whole thing and just kind of gloss over the story as a whole. There's not really much going on in individual episodes. Dirty Sanchez says, series started so strong with the focus on Johnny, then the Twilight teenage. Yeah. So this is the thing, like when it started out, I mean, the whole crux of this show, based on series 1, and even in some respects, some of season 2, I think, was all focused on Johnny. He was the main character. He was the focus, and, Daniel got bought into it afterwards. But it really was a shift in focus to what we thought was the villain from the first Karate Kid film. And where is he and what's he doing and his life and his struggles and his rise. And it was great. And then I do think the show has lost its focus. It started bringing in a lot of extra characters from the other Karate Kid films, which, you know what, it felt like a reunion, so I'm fine with that. And I thought, for the most part, how those characters were brought in, they were brought in at the right time. It made sense, and most of it felt pretty natural. It is the new cast, as you put it, like the Twilight teenage drama took over. But it just felt like that drama has just been dragging its heels for 6 seasons. It feels like we do the same shit every season. We don't advance any kind of storytelling. Johnny and Daniel just, their beef with each other just gets reset over the most stupidest of things of every single season, and then they become, friends, and then they're enemies again at the end of the season or into the beginning of the next season, and it's so frustrating, especially 6 seasons in. And the same goes for the Twilight teenage drama. It's always the same shit. We haven't moved these characters at all. It feels like the writers don't really know what to do with them. And if you look at any kind of, like, what arc have some of these characters been on across 6 seasons, it feels like we're still doing the same drama that we were doing with some of these characters back in like season 1 or season 2. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about Cobra Kai. This isn't like Shakespeare. This isn't high art. It's, we're talking about the Karate Kid trilogy here, which has its fair share of wacky things going on, where the whole events of the world apparently are turned on karate. It is a little bit ridiculous in concept, but I felt like there was just a tighter focus maybe with some of those other seasons. So they still have problems, but certainly with the original cast, what is going on with Daniel in this series? What's going on with Johnny this series? It's so totally negligible. So I do think that season 6 is the one to end it on, and I hope they stick to that, and I hope they don't bring it back. We'll be talking about the upcoming film Karate Kid Legends, which is coming out next year in the summer, I think, and how I think this might tie in with it. If it's tying in at all, I expect it will, but I don't really know. Brinsley says, I haven't really carried on since season 5. I'll probably watch season 6 at some point. I mean, like if you're 5 seasons in already, you may as well finish it out. At this point, if you're not really fussed about it, then I'd probably just wait until February the 13th, and then just watch all 15 episodes. I wouldn't really be in any kind of immediate rush. There hasn't been like any major spoilers or anything happen yet, so I think you're fine with that. It is just kind of more of the same so far. So if you can hold out till February, you might even have a better experience watching the complete series, I guess. Brinsley says, do you have any info about the new Karate Kid movie? I was actually just having a look at it before we started. I'll just bring it up again. So Karate Kid Legends, we do have a title and we do have a date as to when it's coming out. It is scheduled for release on May the 30th. And I know it's being made by Sony. I guess they have the rights to it. And it's Ralph Macchio, Daniel LaRusso returning with Jackie Chan. Now, I've never actually watched that remake. It was the 2010 remake, wasn't it? The Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. It's going to have a new protagonist in there, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see if there's anything on the plot. Apparently, an actor called Ben Wang is going to be the main lead. And then a bunch of other side characters as well. From the original cast, it looks like, I mean, there might be some other characters who are returning, but it looks like at the moment, at least, it's just Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio, and then Jackie Chan. So I do kind of like that, how it's reuniting both of them. It should be interesting. What I want to know is how it's going to tie in with Cobra Kai. I feel like at this point, it's going to have to tie in with it at some point or follow on from it, whether the references they have in there are negligible, whether we're going to see people like Daniel LaRusso's wife, Amanda LaRusso, or whether we're going to see Johnny Lawrence or any of these characters. I don't know. I feel like it might just be Ralph Macchio. This film might exist in a vacuum. It might just be a sequel to the original films and completely disregard Cobra Kai, which I hope it doesn't do. Because, despite my criticisms on season 6, I still do see the Cobra Kai as a continuation of those Karate Kid films. So I don't want like this weird like multiverse effect, or kind of like what they do with the Halloween films with Jamie Lee Curtis, how you have like Halloween 2, which was the original sequel. Then they do something like, I can't remember which one it is. Is it Halloween H2O or is it Halloween Resurrection? Which has a different fate for her character. And then they did the 2018 one, which is also a different continuation of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I don't want that. I would like it if they just keep it in canon. But they might keep it in canon, but they just might not have any references to the other characters. But beyond that, I don't have any more information for you. I don't have any plot or anything like that. By the looks of it, it looks like it's just going to be these two masters training up this new kid. So basically just the Karate Kid again. That's what it looks like, but hopefully they actually do something a little bit different. One person I'm really holding out for, and there's 5 episodes left. I've almost given up hope at this point. I would love it if they brought Hilary Swank into the last 5 episodes of Cobra Kai. It's like the one out of that original line of films. I mean, they've brought a lot of people back from the original trilogy. I think more or less everyone that they could have brought back now has made an appearance from those original films. But the one film that's unaccounted for so far is the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. And there was a moment, was it the end of season 4? I think it was the end of season 4. It could have been the end of season 5, I forget. And it was Daniel LaRusso at the grave of Mr. Miyagi. And he says, like, I'm going to need all the help I can get. And I was losing my mind the first time I was watching it. I was like, oh my God, please be Hilary Swank. Please be Hilary Swank. Let's, the 2 students of Mr. Miyagi joining forces to take on Terry Silver. I think it was the end of season 4, actually. And then the camera panned back and it was just Chosen, who was already in the series at that point and an established character. I was like, oh, okay. I like Chosen. They do make him very, very comedic, though. in this new series, which he's kind of like lost a lot of the edge and the darkness to his character that he had and the demons he was facing. He is just kind of the comic relief character now, which is a bit of a shame to see him go down that route. But they kind of started doing that in the last series, but even then, like, he got a badass moment towards the end of season 5. This series, when he's hunting for houses with Johnny, and then he's kind of being a bit of an idiot and drunk in this series. They kind of do like a love thing where he falls in love with the Chinese lady from Cobra Kai, the one who kind of looks like Lucy Liu from Kill Bill. But yeah, oh my god, if they got Hilary Swank back, that's like the one character that's unaccounted for. Well, what's Hilary Swank doing at the moment? What's she doing? She could come back. She's not that expensive, right? Hopefully not. Let's see. Bath Time says, is there any crossover with Jackie Chan and his version? Well, as I mentioned, that's going to be the next film next year. You're going to have Daniel LaRusso and Jackie Chan. Was it Mr. Oh god, what was his name? I've never watched that film. It wasn't Mr. Miyagi. They didn't redo that, did they? Mr. Han or something, I think, wasn't it? Sanchez. Keep his son's name out your fucking mouth. Well, that's what I wonder, because Will Smith gets a producer's credit on Cobra Kai, and he also has, by proxy, I guess he has some kind of, stake in the Karate Kid films. He also has his name down for that other film, and Jackie Chan's coming back from it. So I'm wondering if he is going to push his son back into the limelight and get Jaden Smith in there in some way. So I think it's a big possibility, maybe. We've got Steve Strong, who says, did you see the 2 clips they showed for PP3 on Netflix, Behind the Dojo? Oh, is that part 3? Is it? Sorry. No, I haven't seen this. Steve Strong says, Ralph confirmed that the new Karate Kid movie takes place after the events of Cobra Kai. Oh, that's cool. Ralph's... Oh, sorry. It's the same comment. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, it could still take place after Cobra Kai, but I think they might keep the references to a minimum. They probably think that, well, I don't know. Are they counting on their audience having seen 6 seasons of Cobra Kai before, if it's tying in with that, or are they just going to keep references to it very vague? I think they're going to keep references to other characters vague. I think it's just going to be Daniel LaRusso. I think they're going to keep it mostly self-contained, but it could take place after the series. Right, so season 6 part 2, what can I really say about it? So a lot of the focus at the beginning of these 5 episodes is just the crew, the kids of Miyagi-Do flying to Barcelona, and there's kind of like a lot of stock footage, it almost feels like, of Barcelona, and they're really making the use of this location. From here, the different groups of the different fighters are just kind of bickering with each other, picking small skirmishes with each other and fighting. There's like the evil female, I guess, of the Barcelona crew, the Iron Dragons. There's this new team on the block called the Iron Dragons, and they're like the most toughest, roughest, fighters ever. Like, they're just kicking everyone's ass. They're unstoppable. The main sort of like male captain is this kind of Ivan Drago looking motherfucker, and then you've got this Instagram thought kind of character, I guess. She's like, welcome to Barcelona, bitch. And she always picks a fight with Tori, and they do this like love triangle thing where this new character's trying to get with Robbie in order to make Tori jealous, and then Tori gets jealous and it's throwing her off her game, and Robbie's still in love with Tori and it's throwing him off his game, and he can't be the strong champion that he wants to be. He's letting his team down. They really do just kind of nerf a lot of characters in this. There's a lot of sort of nerfing a character and then making them overpowered again. And they do that with Robbie. Robbie's just an absolute pushover for most of this series. And then all of a sudden, when he gets his mojo back, he snaps and he's like the strongest fighter ever. They do that with Hawk as well. Like, Hawk's been like an absolute powerhouse fighter, and then they'll just nerf him when the plot's convenient. And they still do that. There's frustrating moments in this as well where it'll be like a free-for-all, for example, and it'll be like, right, your team has to fight the opponent, and you can tag any member of your crew in, as long as you basically finish your opponent and you'll be successful and move up the leaderboard. And you'll have moments where Sam is fighting like the big male captain of the other team. And she's like, and she's like fighting, and they're actually going toe to toe. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you have Sam up again. Well, this is why you don't have like male and female people competing in sports, because just physically, biologically, the male will absolutely fucking decimate the woman. That's why you have different, classes. There are different weight classes as well. Everything. And Sam's like actually going toe to toe with some of these people. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is bullshit. You can clearly see the actors that are martial arts trained and are quite proficient. You've got that new guy who was kind of, he looks like an anime character. He's the male captain of the Cobra Kai team. Is it Quan, I think his name is. And when you see him, he's doing these high kicks and these spins, and you're like, I can tell that actor has martial arts training. Even stuff with like Robbie and Miguel, you can tell that they can probably hold their own. Terry Silver as well. I mean, he is still a martial artist, and you can see that quite evidently. And then you have scenes where you've got like Sam or Tori or like fucking Dimitri. I always can't stand that character. And you can clearly tell like they're just, it's so pitiful to watch them try and fight. And they always have like this look of determination, like I'm just like, sit the fuck down. Like, have a dad, Legolas, Oh, Brinsley's picking a fight. Me v Chris, who wins? I mean, Brinsley, I've never seen you, my dude. So like, I don't know. You probably kick my ass, to be fair. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I'll try and talk you down with diplomacy at first, and we'll see where we go from there. Steve says, yeah, Cobra Kai Part 3. There are 2 small clips on Netflix behind the dojo. Oh, okay. I haven't watched that yet. I'll have to check that out. Yasir says, I watched the whole season. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Steve says, the girl that plays Zara from Iron Dragons is a 13-time champion and 5th degree black belt in Taekwondo in real life. Yeah, so she's pretty cool. It's when she gets paired in a fight with Tori, and you can tell that, they're having to nerf down her. She's having to pull her punches for the sake of the plot and for the sake of the characters. And it's just, Cobra Kai has always done that, but when you have like this big tournament, it's quite frustrating to watch. It's like fucking Dimitri. How is he in a final of the Sekai Taikai, the most prestigious karate championship across the world? There is no fucking way that he would still be in there. And then you also have oh god, what's her name? She snuck her way into the competition. She gave laxatives to Kenny's character and took his place in the Sekai Taikai. Devon's character. There is no way that she would be in the finals of a championship. I'm sorry, she's absolutely fucking decimated. They do tie that up as well. The whole series, I was watching it thinking like, man, like Kenny's got really just shafted this whole series, because Kenny was one of my favorite characters when he was introduced. I think was it season 3 he was introduced? I really like his character. I'm like, justice for Kenny. Let's get him in the series. I want to see more of him. And just when I was at that point where I was like, we haven't seen Kenny in a long time, they do bring him back into it. And they do tie up that whole thing. And there is a moment where Devon does admit to her wrongdoing. Kenny initially blames Anthony, Daniel's son, for doing it because those two had beef with each other and, bullying in the earlier series. So Kenny initially thinks that it was him who did it. But Devon does eventually come clean. So it was good to see him in there. Like, Kenny's a pretty cool character. It's cool to see him fight. I'm going to talk about some of the weird subplots in this series and the random tangents that kind of amount to absolutely nothing. One of the characters in this where it felt like they just had to try and crowbar her in the series somehow is the character of Carmen. Now, I love Carmen. Absolutely wholesome character. Absolutely wonderful woman. I totally ship her with Johnny. Like, let's go. And we learned that she's pregnant. I think she's having a daughter. I think they mentioned that it's a daughter. And then midway through the series, just as they're coming up to, I think it's like the semifinals or something, they get a call from home saying that there's been complications with the pregnancy and Carmen's been rushed into hospital. So Johnny and Miguel jump straight back on a plane. and fly back. And there's like this wacky hijinks on the plane where there's this really stereotypical first class passenger who's angry at Johnny and Miguel causing a scene. They've had a bit of a falling out at this point, and Miguel doesn't want to sit next to Johnny, so Miguel sits at the front of the plane in first class, and Johnny's in the back. And Johnny's trying to break the ice with Miguel and talk to him, and that's actually probably one of the best scenes, probably one of the best acted scenes. There is like genuine emotion there, where he says, you know, I'm your dad as well, like you're my son as well, and it's really well acted from the character who plays Miguel and Johnny, and there's a lot of emotion there. But then they throw all this like wacky shit in as well, and this stereotypical passenger, and Miguel knocks him out on the plane. They get to the hospital, and they walk in, and they see a bed, and there's like all blood over the bed covers, and they're thinking like, oh my god, she's not in bed, there's all blood there, she's passed away. And they start breaking down and crying. And then she comes in a wheelchair, and she's pushed in, and she's fine. And they just moved her to a different room. And then she just says, like, I'm grateful that you flew here, but I'm fine. So what are you doing here? You've got a tournament to win. Get back on a plane and get back to the competition. So they do. And then all of a sudden they're back in Barcelona again, and they're doing the competition, and nothing's changed. And I thought, that was really fucking negligible. Like, we completely sidelined the plot and deviated down this subplot. In a way, it feels like just to keep Carmen in the show and keep her in the conversation. And it felt like they were just completely cliffing from the Rocky 2 moment, but the Rocky 2 moment has actual build up to it and is like a central part of the plot. This felt like a homage to that. In Rocky 2, there's the bit where Adrian has complications with the pregnancy, and she slips into a coma, and it completely throws Rocky off his game. And, you know, obviously he's absolutely devastated. He's by her bedside every single night. He doesn't want to train. He can't train. He's not mentally in the right spot. His rock is in a coma. You know, Adrian's everything he cares about is his sort of fire. And then she wakes up, and there's a moment there, and then she says, there's one thing I want you to do for me. Win. And then the music kicks in, and my goosebumps stand on end. I absolutely fucking love Rocky 2, and that's a great moment. And, you know, Burgess Meredith, then what are we waiting for? And then they start training, and it's, love Rocky. They try and do that moment, it feels, with this. You have the complications with the pregnancy. They get there, and she's just like, oh, yeah, just what are you doing here? Go back and win. I'm like, oh, okay. But it actually feels earned in Rocky 2. This one, it just feels like, well, we just wasted screen time because we're right back at the Sekai Taikai and nothing's changed. So that's a deviation, which I thought was pointless. Another one is, there's this really perplexing moment. So Daniel, in the previous part of season 6, gets this headband that belonged to Mr. Miyagi, which he wore in the Sekai Taikai, and he finds that there's like a blood stain on it, and that kind of sends him on his quest. So when they get to the Sekai Taikai, there's a bunch of sponsors there, and the various team captains and mentors are trying to like schmooze a little bit and curry favor with some of these, almost like political power a little bit with some of these sponsors. And Daniel takes this headband up to one, and she's like a collector or something. She knows a lot about memorabilia and the dates of things, and she sees this headband and she says, oh my god, where did you find this? You know, these don't just crop up on eBay. This is like a genuine, authentic, probably from the 1950s Sekai Taikai headband. And I can't remember who gives Daniel the address. I can't remember if it's her, who's like this collector and she knows all information on these things, or if it's someone else. I do forget who gives him the address, but he says, I know a guy who is like an old sensei who knows everything about this generation of the Sekai Taikai and where and who this, you know, get my words out. They know who the headband belongs to, but more about the history of that actual event in the 50s. And I've got an address for you. Coincidentally, this sensei also lives in Barcelona, or did live in Barcelona for a time. I'm like, what are the fucking odds? They host the Sekai Taikai in Barcelona, and the person who you're after just happens to be here too. So they write this address down for Daniel, and he gets in a taxi and he goes to this. It's like this back alley kind of thing. He tells the taxi driver to wait for him outside, but the driver just speeds away. And he goes inside like this old abandoned warehouse looking thing, and he's jumped and he's locked in a dog cage. And he wakes up and there's like a bunch of like barking dogs in cages around him. and he's asking like, "Who are you? Like, who do you work for? Who does number 2 work for?" And he manages to pick the lock inside. It's really weird. Inside the headband is like a necklace with Christ on it, I think. I don't remember him finding that necklace in the previous part. I thought it was just the headband, but he's almost like surprised to find it. I'm like, how would you not feel this in the headband? I don't remember there being a necklace in there. Maybe there was. So it's like a key ring almost, and he pries it apart and he picks the lock and he gets out and he's jumped by a bunch of dudes and he fights his way out. One of the guys has a Cobra Kai tattoo. I think later we find out that this guy is one of the henchmen who was working for Terry Silver in Karate Kid Part 3. It does a bit of a flashback, so I think it was probably him. I'm not sure if it was the original actor, if they're just, it probably was the original actor, I'm guessing. And at first, he thinks it's Kreese has done this, has set this whole thing up in order to lure Daniel there. And I guess it is because Kreese is kind of talking very cryptically. It's like, "So, Daniel, did you enjoy your trip?" or something like that. He's, asking very knowing questions. But then I think it's revealed later on that it was actually, and correct me if I'm wrong if anyone's watched this, because my mind's a little bit vague on it, and I have only just watched the series. It turns out that it was actually Terry Silver that did it. I'm like, well, Kreese and Terry Silver are complete loggerheads this series. Like, the two of them fight together at the end, fight with each other at the end. So I don't know, was Kreese in on it? Was it Kreese's plan, or was it Terry Silver? Who gave him the address? It felt like there was a million ways to get Daniel out of the picture than this really convoluted fucking plot of Daniel just happened to ask about and inquire about this headband. A headband which I think that John Kreese and Terry Silver weren't even aware that Daniel had, as far as I remember. They orchestrate this whole crazy plan to get him in the dog cages. I think it was Terry Silver who set this whole thing up. I don't know. It feels very convoluted and a huge leap in logic, but there we go. Well, welcome to Cobra Kai Season 6. There's a lot of that. Eddie24 says, "I would love to see Part 3 Miguel versus Axel." Yeah, that would be cool. Axel's that new guy who's like Dolph Lundgren, built like a fucking tank and like, "I must break you," kind of thing. Brinsley says, "Dimitri getting that girl as a girlfriend is where the show really jumped the shark." Yeah, fucking A. Well, those two break up now in a really weird moment. So they go out clubbing in Barcelona, and this chick kind of comes on to Dimitri, and they start dancing with each other on the dance floor. And then Hawk, it looks like he does it in spite. He starts FaceTiming his girlfriend, and Dimitri's girlfriend is with her, and he's like scanning the room saying like, "Look around," and he videos Dimitri dancing with this chick, and she gets really jealous, and then apparently the two of them break up. I was like, well, what? Of course, I'm like, number one, he can't dance with someone on the dance floor. It's not like he's fucking her or anything. He's just dancing on the dance floor. But yeah, it's melodrama. Again, melodrama that I don't care about. There's a moment as well where you have all of the new cast in the locker room before they go out to the finals. And it's like, this is the last time that we're all going to fight with each other because, all of us are going on to college next year and we're all going to be going our separate ways. And they try and have a heart-to-heart, and the actors are like crying and hugging each other. And I'm like, I want to be invested in these new characters. I do, but I just really don't give a fuck. I guess if that's sort of like the send-off for all of these characters together, they handled it in a nice way. And it's nice that all of those characters got to have some screen time together, I suppose. It must be kind of emotional for the actors, I suppose, that have built these close friendships over 6 series of working together. So it's nice when you have moments like that. I just wish I gave a fuck about the new cast. That's all. Let's see. We've got Dwayne Hicks, who says Dennis lives but Snake doesn't. Dennis lives, but Snake doesn't. Dirty Sanchez says, without having seen the second part of season 6, let me guess, Tori's arc repeated itself for the 4th time. You are correct, sir. So Tori is unbalanced. Once again, she is fighting for Cobra Kai, but her loyalties lie with Miyagi-Do and Robbie and her conflicted emotions, and she wants to prove herself for her mom because no one trusts her, no one is in her corner. She feels hard done by, and they a lot of knowing glances with Robbie from across the room, and it throws her off her A game. And there's a moment where, it's so it's so fucking trite, it's so cliched. Robbie looks over and he sees that Quan, that anime guy, the male captain of Cobra Kai. He puts his arm around Tori at the bar, and then Robbie thinks, oh, those two are a thing now. She's doing it to get back at him. So he goes and fucks the female captain from Iron. I was gonna say Iron Dragon. It's not Iron Dragon. Is it? Yeah, Iron Dragon. Sorry. He goes and fucks her, and then she's like, "You got played because he just put his arm around me and nothing happened, and you went and fucked someone, so I'm mad at you now." It's just I don't care. Show me Terry Silver. Show me John Kreese. Show me Johnny and fucking Daniel LaRusso. Write a compelling story for them. I don't care about these new characters anymore. Dwayne says, no mention on Jack Pierce time with Mr. Miyagi after the war. Yeah, none of that. They never really elaborate on that stuff as well about that gym that Mr. Miyagi owned. They never really kind of follow that through either. This series is just, the only mention of Miyagi really is that he fought in the Sekai Taikai and that he killed his opponent. Mr. Miyagi's now like evil and dangerous now, apparently. John Kreese show since season 2. Pretty much. No, I think Terry Silver had his time to shine when he came back. Was that in season 4? That was a strong season. Loved seeing the flashbacks of those two. And Chosen and Kim building up sandcastles together. Yes. So yeah, Chosen and Kim have a fling in this one, like a one night stand, kind of frenemy kind of thing. And apparently they got very drunk and had a fun time together on the beach. So yeah, definitely building sandcastles together. Fair play to him though. I mean, she is smoking hot, like I would. Rickenberger says, sad that Snake died. Oh, sorry, you're talking about the are you talking about, wait, Snake? Was he one of the original Cobras? Oh, Snake is dead. Yeah. Hang on. Let me refresh myself. Snake. Oh, sorry. Yes. I forgot his name. He's one of the other henchmen, sorry, isn't he, from Karate Kid 3? Yeah, my bad. Yeah, is the actual actor dead who played Snake, or did he just not want to come back for this? I actually haven't followed that. Let me just double check who played him. Jonathan Alvedson. Let me see. That's a quick little check on IMDb. Oh no, he's still around. Yeah, he's still around. Yeah, I guess maybe he just didn't want to come back for it, or they couldn't reach out to him. I expect they would have tried to get him back if they could. But yeah, it's sad how they wrote him out, because he was probably the more memorable of the henchmen, I would say, in Karate Kid Part 3. Dwayne says, Tori forgotten about her aunt argument after losing her brother in welfare checks. Yeah, they do tend to forget things with the characters in this series, don't they, as they advance. Yeah, sorry, you've mentioned it now, Snake from Karate Kid 3. Yeah, it's a shame. They always you think they're picking up every character that they could. I was actually looking out for him when Terry Silver was first brought back, but I mean, at least they got one of them, but it is a shame. But I'm sure they tried. Maybe he just didn't want to be a part of it, or maybe he's not an actor anymore. Maybe he's got other stuff going on. I'm not sure. Other deviations and pointless things. So I've talked about the Miyagi side quest. I guess like Kreese and Terry Silver in this one. So Terry Silver's introduced into it in episode 8, and what Terry Silver's done now, he's kind of against Cobra Kai. He's trying to take Kreese down. And he backs another team. He backs the Iron Eagles, and there's a flashback. I don't know if it's it's a flashback scene where Terry Silver, he goes to like this cage match in this bar, and the team captain from Iron Eagle is there. And he's just absolutely decimating people in the ring. And Terry Silver says, like, I know you got a lot of debts, debts with the wrong people. If you agree to fight in the Sekai Taikai and you take down Cobra Kai and humiliate them, I will pay all of your debts. I'll just, they're completely gone, and I'll reinstate you as the sensei at your own gym, at your own dojo, and you can get back into the game again. So yeah, he's just kind of backing that side. You also have another team who get busted for taking performance-enhancing drugs towards the end, and they get eliminated from the competition. At this point, Cobra Kai is out. Cobra Kai lose, and they're out of the competition. But it's only when this other group is disgraced and eliminated from the competition that they then say, well, to make up the numbers, we'll bring Cobra Kai back into the fight. What amounts at the very end of this thing is the most over-the-top, ridiculous free-for-all fight between every single group in the competition. One of the performance-enhancing team members takes a swing at the presenter, the adjudicator, whatever you want to say, on the microphone introducing the fights, knocks him clean the fuck out, which then turns into a huge free-for-all fight in the tournament, which is also being televised. This is ridiculous. So all the cameras are on, and you've got like Amanda and Anthony and all the other side characters who we don't give a fuck about are watching the tournament from home, live broadcast from Barcelona. And they're gearing up for the tournament, and it's underway. And then this huge fucking fight that goes on for about 20 minutes breaks out. It's just, you're just watching people punch. You're not really seeing people get tired. You're not really seeing people get really hurt. You're just kind of watching two people go at each other and knocks them to the mat. And then it'll cut to another two people and they're grappling. And then it cuts to another two people and one gets knocked to the mat. All of these side characters from all these other gyms and dojos that you don't care about, you're just kind of mindlessly watching people fight. And it's so exhausting to watch. Is some of the choreography fine? Maybe, but I just don't give a fuck about any of these characters, and it feels like I'd rather have actual story happening, actual moments of characters interacting with each other, rather than just people just picking a fight. And it's just this mad clusterfuck of people fighting in the ring, which is still being televised because it keeps cutting back to Amanda watching from home, looking really shocked and disgusted that all of this is happening, that this fight has broken out. And it just goes on and on and on. It kind of goes off the deep end around this point because you have John Kreese, who wants to fucking murder Terry Silver now. Once he's out of the competition, he's like, I've got nothing left to lose. And that knife that he secured from that snake cave, the Dagobah cave from Empire Strikes Back in season 6, part 1, he's got this knife, right? And he's like, I'm going to fucking stab and kill Terry Silver. I'm like, I feel like we've wandered off the beaten track now. Karate Kid was never about this. Now it's about murder and wanting to like fucking stab Terry Silver in the kidney or something. So John Kreese, from across this clusterfuck of this fight, sees Terry Silver and he goes, right, I've got you, you bastard. So he gets this knife and he tucks it into like his belt at the back, but there's no pockets in a karate belt. It just goes around you and you tie it, but it's not particularly tight. And he just puts this knife in the back, and he's like pushing people to try and get to everyone. He's trying to get to Terry Silver, so there's like a fight breaking out, and he shoves them to the side. He gets to Terry Silver, and he's about to throw it out, and he reaches for the knife, and big shocker, it fell the fuck out in the other room when he was pushing past everyone, and it like flashes back, and when like someone shoved into him, it fell out of his belt. I'm like, no shit, just keep it in your fucking hand, and then it ain't going anywhere. And then he has a fist fight with Terry Silver, and you're watching these two old men hit each other. It's quite funny. But Terry Silver's still in great fucking shape, still a martial artist, but you can tell that they do a body double every now and then for John Kreese. And he gets his ass kicked. Terry Silver absolutely like wipes the floor with him. Meanwhile, it cuts back to the main room, and you have the anime character. I keep forgetting his name. What's his name? Quan. Quan, the crazy Chinese guy who wants to like fucking murder everyone, like the most proficient fighter there is. He's picking a fight with oh god, who's he fighting? I feel like he's fighting the Iron Dragon captain, the Ivan Drago character, and he's getting his ass kicked. And he falls right next to the knife that's conveniently on the floor right next to him. So he grabs this knife and he like tucks it up his sleeve and he's ready to like fucking stab the team captain. Daniel sees this from across the room and is trying to get to him to stop the fight. And right at this moment, I thought, I swear to God, if you stab Daniel LaRusso, but then I thought, well, this is like the annoying thing that Marvel do, where they announce like a whole bunch of films after the fact. So you're watching something and you're like, well, the character's not going to die because they've already signed up to Captain America 5 or Captain America 6 or whatever it is. And it was the same with this. I'm like, well, you've got Karate Kid Legends coming out next year in May. You ain't going to kill Daniel LaRusso off. But there was a moment where I thought like, shit, like maybe he's going to try and break up the fight and he's going to get stabbed. But so that this fight still wages on, and essentially Quan is flipped and he falls on the knife himself. He falls on his own knife and is killed. And they rush to the whole fight stops. Weirdly enough, Terry Silver and John Kreese were kind of like fighting out back, sort of like near like the changing rooms and whatnot, behind the actual stage, behind the ring. Then all of a sudden, unless I missed something, the two of them teleport back into the fucking room to witness Quan, essentially killing himself, falling on the knife, and everyone acting in complete stunned silence. But I'm like, wouldn't Terry and Johnny, because Johnny goes out back and starts fighting Terry, wouldn't all three of those characters still be slugging it out back? Why? It's like a scene was missing. Like, how did we get them from that room to here? Because they witnessed the stab happen. They're in the same room. So I missed something there. I don't know how those characters teleported into the main room. And yeah, the final shot is Quan dead on the floor, bleeding out, pool of blood. And the cameras are still on. We've had like a 20-minute fight scene that's still being televised across the fucking world. You have the cameraman still there recording the whole free-for-all fight. They would have cut the feed immediately. This would not be happening. It jumps the shark completely. I was totally out of it. As I said earlier, it feels like the showrunner's just going, well, it's our final season, so let's just have the biggest, craziest fucking fight we can. And they didn't need to do that. Like, the smaller, intimate fights are better. Like, when you've just got a free-for-all with every single character on screen just slugging it out, it's just boring to watch. And then it ends, and it's almost, the credits are almost in silence. It's very somber music as someone has died by the blade. By their own blade. It's very symbolic, I suppose. And that's it. And that's kind of it for season 6, part 2. I have no further questions, Your Honor. The plot is so stretched thin. And I feel like these episodes are longer as well than previous seasons. I feel like the other seasons, you could almost marathon them. I feel like the episodes were maybe like 20, 25 minutes, and you were always on the edge of your seat. You could easily marathon a whole 10-episode season. And I've done that in the past with Cobra Kai. I've done that for multiple seasons of Cobra Kai, where I've just sat and watched all 10 in one sitting. This one, it feels needlessly long, needlessly padded, and there's just really not much story. I feel like it is winding down. So I'm glad that this is the final season. I'm glad that they're not dragging this out to like a season 7. It's frustrating because the showrunners ages ago, kind of when Game of Thrones season 8 had just finished, and everyone was kind of feeling raw about that Game of Thrones completely shit the bed at the ending, and it was a terrible, terrible end and a huge waste of potential at what could have gone down in history as one of the greatest TV shows ever made. And they were asked about that, and they said, like, do you have an end planned? Is there an ending? Or are you just kind of working this thing out as you go along? And they said, no, we have an ending. We've got an ending planned. We've had it planned since the beginning. We know where we're leading to. And this story is 6 seasons. As far as I'm concerned, like they really could have ended this at season 5. I felt like it peaked with the ending of season 5 with that big fight with Terry Silver and him getting bested. Now it feels like we're just picking up the scraps and we're kind of padding it out a little bit too long. So yeah, I guess that's my review on Cobra Kai season 6 part 2. Is it better than part 1? Probably, but part 1 felt like there was a whole bunch of nothing happening and just pointless meandering melodrama and tearing down the legacy of Mr. Miyagi. This part just feels like it is just your action 5-parter. It's just non-stop fighting. Chris says, do you miss Quan? I thought he was like had a cool edge to his character, but we don't really get much about him. In the previous series, we see him, training super hard, in like the training temple or wherever they were at, but we never really got much insight into his character. We never really fleshed him out, knew his backstory. We never kind of saw a different side to him. He was just the sort of like maniac ultra champion that they've got to take down, and nothing else beyond that, really. It's interesting to note this series we haven't had Mike Barnes back either. I'm expecting a return from him in the final 5 episodes, perhaps. Yeah. There you go. Dwayne Hicks says Michael Ironside returns. That would be incredible. He's still around. Let's get him in. Let's do this next Karate Kid stuff. We've got 5 episodes left. I want Hilary Swank. I want Michael Ironside. Let's bring them all in. Let's go. This is our time to do it. Dwayne Hicks says the Russians and the Irish were both entertaining. Yeah. I will say, as always, the music in this series is outstanding. It's high energy. The guitar work is fucking incredible. Like the shred work, the melodies. It really is the lifeblood of all these fights. When you feel just like, I can't be arsed with what's going on screen, the music is high energy enough and it's trying to get you like G'd up. It's great for a workout. If you ever listen to the Cobra Kai soundtrack when you're like out on a run or lifting weights, it's would 100% vouch for it. So the music's still great. And yeah, when they fight the Irish with really stereotypical Irish accents, it's like, I'm going to kick your feckin' arse, like when she squares up with Sam. And of course she's got ginger hair. Of course she has. I thought she'd have like a shamrock or something as well. The music itself almost turns into like a river dance kind of thing, like an Irish jig with like the guitar work, which I thought was really fun. Dwayne says, remember those John Kreese killed Tori's mother video theories back in July? Thank heavens not. Yeah, no, I thought the same. When it focused on because it focuses on like the pills or something, doesn't it, on the floor? And they say that, she just had, I think it was a blood clot, wasn't it, that we missed? They do say that in the previous series, don't they? But I did think it was a little bit suspicious. I thought, to what? Well, we know that he's murderous. We know that he tries to fucking stab and actively kill Terry Silver in this series. Let's see. Dwayne says Hilary Swank and Jackie Chan cost more than their entire end brawl fight. Probably. But I mean, as I say, like, what is Hilary Swank doing at the moment? I haven't heard from that woman since $1 Million Baby. What is she doing? Okay, she's 50 now. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Filmography. Oh, she's still doing stuff. Okay, she apparently had a film from this year called Ordinary Angels. Anything that I've heard of, though? Oh, she was in Logan Lucky from 2017. I think I watched that once. Don't really remember much about it. Yeah, exactly. Is she doing some TV stuff? Maybe. Exactly. Get Hilary Swank back. Why not? Give her the money. You're going to make the money back on the Karate Kid movie anyway next year. Maybe. Chris says, I hope Jackie Chan comes to Cobra Kai, the final episode. Well, I was going to mention that actually. With the film already being, it's coming out next year. It's out next May. It's not all that long to wait, really. And there's a poster and we've got the cast. They would have known about it whilst doing Cobra Kai. So do you think that Cobra Kai is going to kind of end conclusively as a show? Or do you think when Sony said we're making a Karate Kid film, they've had to go back in and kind of add some like seeds of like story? What if like Daniel gets a letter or something from this guy called Mr. Han or whatever he's called, Jackie Chan's character, summoning him to, and then that's how they'll meet in the next movie. Do you think they would have gone back for some, to like retcon some things into it to set up for the movie, some reshoots, I guess? Because I do think it will end as a kind of advertisement for the movie coming out next year, or Daniel LaRusso will return in, Karate Kid Legends next year, May 30th. Dirty Sanchez says, maybe unpopular opinion, Sam's actress didn't really watch her nutritional macros during the off-season. Hey, she's thick, okay? She's a little bit thick. She's a little bit softer, so that's fine. It's all good, man. It's all good. I ain't gonna go so far as to call the woman fat. Like, I ain't a dick. She isn't. She's perfectly normal sized. Not exactly what I would think of like Sekai Taikai, athlete in prime condition material, maybe. But so she's a little bit fluffier. It's fine. It's all good. I'm down with the thickness. Fuck it. But it's all about Tori. Tori is. It's like I can change her. I can change her. God damn it. Speaking of I can change her, me and Dale will be doing our Penguin review tomorrow, the HBO series. We have got things to talk about with that series. My God. If you want like my short review now, absolutely fucking outstanding series. Not even just from this year. It's probably legitimately one of the best TV series I've ever watched, period, in my whole life. The writing, the directing, the twists, the turns. And speaking of I can change her, Sophia Falcone, I can change her, goddammit. Actually, no, I don't need to change her. She's perfect exactly the way she is. Yeah, anyway, I think that'll... Oh, sorry, I just noticed something. I don't know if I mentioned this. In Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1, Episode 3, which was called Sleeper, Ralph Macchio directed that episode. Maybe he's directed other episodes of the series, but I don't know. I didn't see that. That's interesting. I don't remember if that was a good episode. I don't remember much about Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1, but there we go. So, yeah, we don't have titles for the next 5 episodes, apart from the final episode. The final episode is apparently called Ex-Degenerate. And that's, so the next bout of episodes, I thought it was January we were going to get them, but it's actually February the 13th. So I guess I'll be back in February for more Cobra Kai, and then a couple of months after that, I'll be back again in May talking about Karate Kid Legends. I will be at the cinema for that. I will be watching that, of course. So, yeah, but I'm going to have more videos out before February. So as I said, tomorrow I'm going to be going live for my Penguin review with Dale. Then I actually have the cinema tickets booked for, I'm off to see The Wild Robot, which was recommended to me by a few of you in the comments. So I'll be seeing that. Whether I do a review on that, I'm not sure. Depends if people want to see a review for The Wild Robot. It has been out for a while, so I'm not sure if that's a video that people would clamor to see. Monday, I'm going to be back with the Disney reviews with Dale. We'll be talking about Big Hero 6 this week. And then I'm almost positive we're going to get another trailer for War of the Rohirrim. So I'll be going live with everything in Middle-earth again for more Middle-earth content. Essentially, I'm just going to keep these live streams coming, guys. So if you like what you see here, if you haven't subscribed already, I welcome you to do so. Please do consider subscribing for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams just like these ones. And if you haven't done so already, or you're discovering this video after the fact, let me know your thoughts on Cobra Kai. So far, what do you think of Season 6? Specifically Part 2, and what are your hopes and speculation for the Karate Kid movie next year, Karate Kid Legends? I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight and commented along and kept the conversation going. I did think at the beginning maybe it's just going to be me talking to a camera, which is fine, but it's always nice when people tune in and share your opinions on the series as well. So, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday evening to do that. I appreciate you guys. We've recently just We've recently just crossed 600 subscribers as well. I've already done a thank you on my community page on YouTube, but I thought I'd just do a verbal one now as well. For anyone who's a new subscriber or has just recently discovered the channel, and then, I've got a lot of long-time viewers as well that watch me on my old previous channel that have stuck with me on this channel. I really appreciate you guys, and 600's great. So here's on to 700. Let's keep it going. Let's keep the channel growing, because it's wonderful. I love doing this, and yeah, big thank you to everyone tuning in. I think I'm all Cobra Kai'd out tonight, so I'm going to go and do some music practice now. I'm going to chill for the rest of my Saturday. Hope you guys are having a great weekend as well, and I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. Have a good one, everyone.